Hello. 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 I was watching a video just before, or listening to a video, I should say. I wasn't watching it, I was driving. But it was talking about voluntary, what do they call it? Voluntary motion, voluntary things, and involuntary bodily functions. That was it. Voluntary bodily functions and involuntary bodily functions. Now, we all know what voluntary bodily motions are, or functions, or whatever you want to call it, motion. Like if I wave my hand, I can't do that by accident. You know, there's a sort of grey area where I can blink voluntarily. My body also blinks automatically, which is sort of an involuntary thing. It sort of happens by accident, you know. Things that are not voluntary, involuntary bodily actions, things like our heartbeat, things like sweating, right? Things like all these sort of things. Now, what makes them voluntary or involuntary is, if it's voluntary, it means that you can do it directly. You can directly manipulate your hand. You can deliberately manipulate your arms or your face or whatever, right? You can do that on purpose and with intention. But you can't just think about it and make your heart slow down. You know, you can't just think about it and make you sweat. You can't do it directly. You can only really do it indirectly. Right? And that's what I'm getting at here. For example, if you do a bunch of exercise, first of all, your heart rate's going to go up. And second of all, you know, you might, if you do it for long enough, you might actually sweat and stuff, right? So while you don't have muscular control directly over your heart or your sweat glands, you do have an involuntary action upon your upon these things, doing other things that are sort of unrelated. It's kind of both obvious and kind of confusing simultaneously. Oh my God, why are you doing things like that? Phone. Stop it. Anyway, you know, that's how it works. That's how voluntary motions happen. The same thing goes for your psyche though. See, a lot of emotions are involuntary. You can't just go, all right, I'm going to make myself happy. I'm going to make myself feel like laughing. Now, you can't do that. What you can do, though, is that you can watch a comedy and you can feel happy. You can start laughing, but it's not you directly doing it. When you directly do it, you can do the actions of it, but that doesn't necessarily make you feel laughter in your core, you know, into an involuntary way. The same way you might be watching a comedian or even a really funny friend, and then they'll be just saying and doing things that make you laugh so hard. And you have to, even if you hold back, you've got a face on your smile. You've got a smile on your face that you can't put away. You can't help but have it existing, right? And you have to hold it back because this emotion that you're feeling is involuntary. Okay? So, with that in mind, you know, a lot of these, now let's go further. Like, what other emotions are involuntary? Well, all emotions are, but what are some that we don't like? Anger, depression, happiness, sadness. Now, you know, it's true that, you know, these things are chemical imbalances sometimes, and you know, just a few little changes don't make, you know, if you got some serious mental illness, and I'm not talking about those. But even in those situations, there are ways to involuntarily affect it. It may not cure anything or fix anything, but it can help. It can help immensely, right? anyone who's been like, oh look, it's kind of a shitty example, but if you've been in a really, really, really crappy relationship that you've been trying and putting in so much effort, the other person just doesn't seem to care enough to try as hard as you, well, that, my friend, is an environment that you shouldn't be in. That's going to involuntarily, meaning she doesn't mean to, but it's going to rub off on you and affect you. If you're watching a lot of news that's talking about how fucked up the world is and how it's not going to change, guess what? Guess what your perspective on the world is going to be involuntarily. You're not going to help it. It's just going to happen. It's going to be like, you know, you're going to start thinking, yeah, you know what? They're right. Instead, you could be watching videos or reading news about stuff that you could change. I've noticed this because there were some speakers, teachers, whatever you want to call them, lecturers, that I used to watch fairly regularly, and one of the things that they believed in is taking care of their body, and I've stopped watching them because I've got so many other audiobooks and courses and stuff that I've paid for that I need to get through, and then and when I've run out of things to do in terms of paid products that I've paid for, then I can go back to that. Or when I'm in the mood, I'll just stop listening to this stuff and go back to what I was listening to before, because it used to rub off on me. I used to exclusively eat a lot of healthy food, and unhealthy food I would keep away from. But the last couple of weeks I've been sort of eating the burger and eating lots of bread and eating this, eating that, you know, like stuff that I don't normally eat. I mean, I'm still a million times healthier than I was 5 years ago, but it's just an example of your influences, of the things around you indirectly affecting you. In the same way that you can't control your heart rate, you know, directly. You can't just go, like, you can move your hand like this, but you can't just move your heart like that. You can't just think it, you know what I mean? You can't do that with your all sorts of bodily functions. Your intestines are constantly squishing food around. Now that's a hard one to, like, how do you indirectly or directly, affect that one, you know what I mean? It's, either way, it's how do you do it, you know? But some things you do have indirect control over, such as your emotions, the way that you think, the way you perceive the world, you know? Simply cutting out bad things out of your sort of mental diet is going to affect you in the same way that cutting out certain types of food is going to affect your physical diet, right? The information that you input into your mind is going to rub off on you. The stuff that you're scrolling past, if you're watching lots of videos on people, like I see videos of people who are having drug overdoses and stuff that are fucked in the street, like all like blacked out from drugs, you know, and I scroll right past it. I'm fully aware of that, and I know about drugs. I know the consequences of them, and I'm highly aware of how messed up certain countries are. And I don't unlike a lot of people who turn a blind eye to these things, I acknowledge that these things are going on in the world, and they don't surprise me. And if I went to that country and I saw it there, I'd be like, there you go, just like I thought. It would be confronting, but, you know, I knew it already. So I'm not turning a blind eye to these things. But what I am doing is not allowing depressive things into my mind that are going to indirectly affect my psyche, the way I view the world. right? Because that's what's going to happen if I focus on these sort of things. I mean, it's like there's all sorts of political stuff going on around the world, and then someone will say something like, can you believe what Trump just did? Look at this. Have you seen this news article? I'm like, I don't need to see the news article. I know he's fucked. Like, what do you... Yeah, of course he would do that. Like, are you stupid? Of course he's done that. He's crazy, you know, like he's... Or whatever, you know, like... Why? I don't need to see that. I already know that the world's fucked. I already know that this. I know that. But I don't need to feed it into my mind all the time. You know? And every now and then I will read an article. Just so that I'm not... So just to bring me back to reality. Just so that I know what's going on. So that I'm not turning a blind eye to everything that's going on in my life, in the world, right? But, you know, it's not the majority of my life. Another example is the type of music you listen to. Now, a lot of people have gone through an emo phase, but you know what? If you're listening to music that's saying, woe is me, my life is pain, why does the world keep hurting me, you know, what's going to happen is it's going to rub off on you. And you may not realize it, but the way that it's going to rub off on you is you're going to start saying things like, I can relate to this music. That's why I listen to it. Right? I can relate to it. I feel it. You know, I'm feeling it because I can see aspects of my own life that are just like that. Right? And if that's the majority of the music that you listen to, that is evidence of it rubbing off on you. The fact that you can relate so closely to it. I've heard music like that, and if I wanted to, I can think of specific events in my life that those things have happened to me. You know, a crazy girlfriend that's hurt me for emotionally, physically attacked me, whatever, you know, I can relate to that. I've been in those situations, you know. I've been in situations where I'm like, why would someone ever do that to anybody? You know? But I don't need to listen to that music all the time, because what it does is this is what it does, right? Is it programs your mind to be focused on these things and not focused on these other things. Like, for example, if you were to listen to lots of music about, oh, my life is terrible, no girl wants to be me, I just love her and I'm so nice to this woman, but she isn't nice back to me, that makes you the biggest chode, my friend. That makes you the type of person who just feels like just because you're nice to someone, someone owes you something. Like it's a business transaction. Like, you're nice to them, so they should be nice back to you, which is true in essence, but in reality, that shouldn't be the place that your love is coming from, right? So, I don't know, like, what else? Like, movies, TV shows, like another great example, if you're watching lots and lots and lots of reality TV shows, what it does is it trains your mind to pick apart other people, to gossip, to look into people's lives and go, oh, look at them, they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and oh, I'm going to zoom in on all this gossipy bullshit, right? That's what it is. That's what the diet of reality television does. And let me make myself clear that I'm not talking about listening to the odd emo song because you feel like it, or watching the odd reality TV show because you're flicking through channels and you find something, or whatever it might be, like the one-off thing. It's not that big a deal, right? It's fine, and in fact, as long as you're surrounding yourself with more information that's going to create a stronger mind, a mind that is goal-orientated, a mind that can figure things out, a mind that doesn't make you feel like you should be a victim of every circumstance in your life, like the classic, why does this happen to me? I made my mistake, I just want to scream. You know, like, are you kidding me? Guys, like, if you're listening to music like that all the time, you're just going to be, like, looking around and, like, something bad happens to you and that song comes in your mind and it's like the world turns grey and like a single tear falls from your cheek because you just remember all the songs that are like that, right? It's like, and it is literally as small as your diet. It's the same like effects. It's a subtle thing. And it, just like a diet, it takes time for it to take effect, right? If you've eaten nothing but junk food and then you switch to healthy food, eating lots of green veggies, eating lean meat, eating this, eating that, trying to reduce your carb intake, all these sort of things so you don't have the insulin spikes and all this sort of crazy shit, you're not going to notice the result right away. Sometimes it'll take months because all of this baggage, basically, this dietary baggage, all of this junk that's in your body and your mind, it takes time to clear out. And for all your metabolism to re-level itself and all that sort of stuff, it takes time. And the same goes with the all of everything that you're surrounding yourself with. So, you know, it's very easy to take what I say to a extreme that is missing the point. For example, saying something like, well, then I'm just going to cut out everything and only consume positive information, blah, 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 blah. You know, and that's not what I'm saying either. It's just monitoring your regular diet, monitoring it, keeping an eye on it, and trying to have the healthy stuff more often than the unhealthy stuff. And the more you get that ratio between healthy and unhealthy stuff correct, the better you're going to feel mentally, physically, emotionally. We all know that it will affect you physically because depression, one of the strong effects of depression is not so much sadness. A lot of people just feel exhausted so easily because their mind has just been working so hard. They haven't got the fit, like, so hard trying to deal with this feeling of depression that they physically can't move. Their motivation levels are non-existent, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, so that's why the music you listen to, the TV shows you watch, the media that you consume in general, how that can affect you physically, right? As that example with depression, okay? As you consume more information about, say, what's it called? About healthy foods and why should you eat healthy, and learning the science behind it, for example. If you go through a stage of watching lots of this information and keeping it at least once a week, watching a video on nutrition and health, for example, and I'm not saying you have to, I'm just giving you an example. If you do that, your mind, it'll soak in your mind, and in time, it'll become part of your subconscious. That's how the subconscious works, is it absorbs information like that, right? So you will naturally just be looking at food and going, oh yeah, I watched that video and that said that food's really healthy. Oh, I'll give it a try, see what it's like. You would never have done that if you didn't watch that video on nutrition, right? And then you try it and you're like, actually it wasn't that bad. It was kind of good. I guess I wouldn't mind eating that again if I felt like it. If I wasn't craving a burger, maybe I'll have that particular type of salad or whatever, you know. It was actually pretty good. I've actually noticed that it affects what I like the taste of and what I don't. You know, as you get into sort of more natural nutritional stuff, so not just your supplements but also just consuming the right types of food, You'll notice that some healthy food is actually bitter because it's so rich in vitamins and stuff, and those vitamins are bitter. Like if you chewed into a vitamin pill, it would be bitter because it contains so much. It's such a concentrated nutrition thing. And some superfoods are bitter because they're so rich in this sort of stuff. But if you're watching these videos, sometimes, not always, but sometimes it leaves your mind in a state where you're like, you know what, I can taste the bitterness, but I know it's good for me, so it kind of tastes all right. You know, it's kind of nice. Like I drink black coffee most of the time now. I love cappuccinos, but generally I just drink black coffee. And I'm noticing, first of all, when I started drinking it was sort of like, oh, it's a bit bitter and stuff like that. But then I was like, you know what, I can actually start to taste all these other random flavors, chocolate and raspberry flavor. Believe it or not, raspberry in chocolate and in a coffee. And it's fascinating. I would never have been able to physically taste that if I didn't watch those nutrition videos that talked about how bitter foods can be healthy. And of course focus. Of course there are situations where that's not the case, right? But generally speaking, that seems to be true. So this is my little rant about how you can indirectly affect parts of your mind on purpose. How you can indirectly control, influence parts of your subconscious to change the way you think. To try these things, you know, like even these videos that I make for you guys. I might make a good point, but you may not implement it, right? I might say something, you're like, you know what, Chris, intellectually that makes a lot of sense. And some of you guys might actually go ahead and try these things out that I'm talking about and go, you know what, I want to change. I want to be a better person. I want to be healthier. I want to have less depression, less anxiety. So I'm going to do these things that Chris talks about. Because I'm so willing to try anything because I hate whatever it is about me, that I'm just going to give these things a try, and if they don't work, then whatever. I know a lot of you won't. I know a lot of you are just watching this because intellectually you think it's a fun thing to think about. But I know that whoever's watching these videos, especially if they watch a couple of them, that I'm actually indirectly affecting you. I'm indirectly changing the way your mind thinks to a better way of thinking, in my opinion, because of course I think my opinion is the best. That's a joke, by the way. I'm wrong all the time, and I'm happy to be wrong. But anyway, but these things have helped me. So I want to share them with other people so that I can perhaps rub off on them. Maybe they'll be influenced by me, and maybe I will indirectly change a tiny bit of their subconscious into a more healthy way of thinking. Okay? And that's why I make these videos. And that the idea of that, and the people who have come up to me in person and sent me messages or whatever and said thank you for making these videos, it really made me think. That's proof that it's worth making these rants, these big long half-hour videos. You know, because I love the idea of helping people. So this is why I do this. Anyway, I think you guys get the message, you get the point. Let me know what sort of things have you thought of that you can indirectly manipulate. The same way you can, even if it's a physical thing. Sometimes you can change your diet, you can change the way your guts work, or you can do exercise and you can change how your heart beats and all of these sort of things, or meditation or whatever, you know. I'd love to hear about them. So do let me know and tell me all about it. It really excites me when I see those messages. So anyway, have a great day. Enjoy. I'm going to rock out to Claude Von Stroke. And you have a great day.